Well, go on, everybody. Lennox here from Simple123 Trader. This is the weekly playbook outlook for Sunday, June 20th to Friday, June 25th. Hope everybody's doing well and are safe. I'm unable to get my usual platform, investing.com, running. I'm not sure why. It's not giving me the symbols. So I'm just going to use MT4 and go over the U.S. and the major currencies and some of the major indices as usual. Looking at Dow Jones Industrial Average on the weekly time frame, you can see that if I go to the monthly first here, we're definitely into new territory as of this break, and it's gone up a couple times. It's coming back down again. Now we could come back down to this area before we get another bounce, something like that, to challenge this high on the monthly. But right now we're in a little bit of a downward mode, and we could see a turnaround this week to continue. If we drew a trend line, we're kind of right along, or we could make it tighter and we're broken through to the downside, and we could have further down. So let's take a closer look on the daily, and you can see, like I say, if we drew a trend line, and I can do this, let me do that properly. I'll draw a trend line with a trend line. So drawing a trend line, you can see we're broken through to the downside through the trend line, but we could get a bounce going back up in the short term at least for this week. So looking at a possible bounce here, but we're at a very critical point, and if we do get a bounce, we could see something like this play out for a while before we continue this move to the upside. It is totally possible. So uh, it's all going to depend on what happens at this moment in time tomorrow. We need to see a good bounce to create this kind of move off the bottom. All right, but it's been quite a move to the downside, like I say, in the last while. But all right, so that's the Dow. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq, which will be basically similar. Okay, so this is on the daily. Not as pronounced as on the Dow, but same type of thing. We've been in quite a move. If I go to the weekly, we've been quite a move to the upside. We're challenging previous highs, and now on the daily, we're right there. So it's again a very critical time. You can see we're right at this mode where we could bounce again and continue on. So looking for further moves to the upside going into this week for the S&P 500. Let's take a look. That will be almost identical. So the same type of thing. We're up at that level where we're seeing some resistance. We're pushing back against that resistance, and we could see a turnaround where we're right at a very key support area. So looking for a turnaround back to the upside going into this week. All right, taking a look at the Aussie US dollar on the weekly, also looking to turn back to the downside right now, head and shoulders again, as I called out before, and we're looking to break through to the downside. That's totally possible going into this week on that. On the daily, we're heading down, and on the 4 hour, we're still heading down. We could, of course, get a little bit of a bounce, but the most of the momentum is to the downside right now. So we could get a bounce short term, but overall, we're heading to the downside more than likely. Okay, let's take a look at the Euro US dollar. I'll go to the weekly. Also in a big move to the downside right here. Just get rid of these guys. And let's take a look on the daily. So big drops. We're basically halfway, maybe 62% of the way down from this move. We've come back. So we could be at that point where we're looking again for a move back to the upside in the short term, at least, on this after this drop. So that's totally possible here. to get that move back to the upside going into this week here. And this Euro and Aussie all depend on what the US dollar is doing, so we'll look at that. GBP US dollar also dropped on the weekly, and now we're on the daily, still going down. We're coming into a support area, so we could see further down, but this will be doing the same as the euro or the Aussie. So if it looks like we could get a bounce as well back to the upside, at least in the short term. So looking at that possibility. Let's also take a look at New Zealand US dollar, and it too is at that same place where we've dropped and at a support, and we could get that bounce back to the upside going into this week. So starting to shape up like that, we could get us at least in the short term, like I say, could get a bounce back up, and we could continue back down, but in the short term it looks like a little bit of a moves to the upside. Okay, let's take a look at USDCAD on the weekly. Huge bounce now from the lows, and we're pushing to the upside on this one very strongly. Let me go to the daily. We'll see this much clearer. And so we're very much to the upside with strength. So I'm not seeing any pullback. At least, we're very close to a resistance area, of course. So, but right now we're heading to the upside with strength. Let's take a look at USD Swiss. Go to the weekly on that one. Also retracing that move, bouncing to the upside. So strength to the upside on USD Swiss. So daily, we're looking to continue that move to the upside. 4 hours, still looking to continue the move. We could also, of course, curl over just a little bit here, but looks like it wants to continue to the upside after that. US dollar index. So now this one will be the key towards most of these majors. And on the weekly time frame, big bounce from hitting support a couple times. We hit support. Now we're bouncing again. We might just come back up into this area, so in the short term, looking like lots of strength there, and we definitely could see a momentum shift. We could come back first, and that might give us the moves on the euro, the Aussie, the GBP, New Zealand. That will give us those moves to the upside, while US dollar takes a little plummet to the downside, at least again in the short term. So that's totally possible here. We could see that pullback before we see continued strength overall. So we'll see how that plays out. With sitting there poised, USDJPY on the weekly, also lots of strength to the upside there, and on the daily, you can see it's very choppy, but it's chopping to the upside, just moving up and down, chopping to the upside. So we keep getting higher highs and higher lows, and it looks like it wants to continue that choppiness, and might be a breakout portending here, possibly on USDJPY. Okay, take a look at gold. And on the weekly here on gold, we have this big pullback down to a support, big push off that support, coming back down again. Looks like it wants to come back at least halfway before maybe continuing to the upside. And it looks like it's a possibility from this kind of move. So we could see this and a continuation of that move overall. So daily move up, down to the upside, back down, and we could, like I say, we could see a turnaround at this point for gold. It's totally possible. If at least in the short term, anyways, we could come back up into this area before we could get another drop as well. So interesting where it's sitting at right now. But looking for a bounce here. Bitcoin. See weekly. Weekly, we've been quite a move to the downside here, and it's still consolidating at this level. So I'm not looking for any big moves with Bitcoin because we're sort of in a channel going sideways, and we could be stuck in here for a while. So we could see another move back up and then another move back down type of thing. So still going to be stuck inside this channel, I believe. I don't see any breakouts happening in the short term, but we could see that consolidation continue for a while. All right, so that's a look at all the majors, and I looked at the Dow and so forth. So um, that's what I'm seeing setting up for this week. So keep your eye on the US dollar index if you're playing the majors, and profitable trading to everyone. Be done now. Be safe.